All right, well, I just want to say thank you, everyone, and welcome to our Reopening of Schools public forum. I'm Dr. Jessica Heising, Superintendent of Schools, and with me I have our entire leadership team, principals, assistant principals, directors, who are here tonight to answer questions that you have regarding the Reopening of Schools plan. Monday, we put out a 50-plus page document with a lot of details and options for the community to consider. And we wanted to provide this week of public comment on that. And we wanted to provide a live opportunity for our leadership team to discuss some of the thoughts behind some of the recommendations that were made. And again, I just want to say, you know, this process is very fluid. It's also very difficult, and I just want to acknowledge the incredible work that our 46-person task force put into this. They provided a lot of input during a time where things were changing by the day. We just got the commissioner's feedback and guidance on July 1. We received the governor's feedback and guidance on July 14th. The committee had met in between those times. Additional meetings had happened, you know, with state health officials following that. So as you can imagine, this has been a very, very complex undertaking. And I just want to thank you for your flexibility, your understanding, your support, your kindness to each other and to all of us as we navigate just an unprecedented and difficult situation. I want to thank the task force for the input that they provided. I just want to commend and just lift up the administrative team. These are 21 people that spent, I don't even know how many hours, you know, early in the morning into the wee hours of the evening, over the course of last week, over the weekends, in the last month, really pouring through just incredibly challenging logistics. And really put forward in this community document recommendations that we believe put first and foremost our primary focus on children. And that's why we're all here. And we want the best for them. And I just want to commend them for the tremendous work that they've done. So thank you, team. With that said, we have a nice agenda for you tonight to begin walking through. This was just our welcome time. I'm going to go through what the agenda will be and the process for this evening. We are going to focus on 4 areas tonight: the school year calendar and the phase-in approach, and the models that are proposed within the plan. And for a period of time, we are going to open the chat box for questions around that particular topic. Okay, so we're going to spend about 20 minutes where we're really going to drill down and focus and answer questions from the public on that particular topic. And then I'll get a 3-minute warning from our timekeeper, and then we're going to move on to the next topic, which is facilities, sanitation, food service, transportation, building use, and classroom configuration. And then we're going to take questions from the public on that as well. And then we'll move on to safety protocols for the following 20 minutes, and we will wrap up with academics, instruction, technology, scheduling, and athletics, and then have a small wrap up and any final questions. Again, the survey that we put out, the feedback form, is still up and still receiving feedback. As of just this evening, the last time I looked, we've gotten 242 responses. And I'll talk a little bit about that data as we go through the evening. So just the objectives of tonight, I just want to be clear that we want to, you know, provide the community with an opportunity to ask any clarifying questions about the reopening plan, and for the district administration to be able to provide some further insights and details into the reopening of school, because we know that anytime you put out a plan of this nature, more questions come up. We know they did for us as we were really drilling down into logistics, and we know they have for you as well. So as I said, we're going to be covering those 4 questions. Each section, we're going to have time. We're going to use our best wait time to provide you the opportunity to place your questions and comments in the chat box. Ms. Michaud, our assistant superintendent, and myself, we're going to serve as moderators, and members of the leadership team and town officials who are joining us tonight are going to be able to respond to questions that you may have. I've asked Jason Smetic, who's our health officer and captain in the fire department, to join us. And so I believe he's here, and he will be able to assist us with any questions that you might have. So this was as of 12:30, and as I said to you, I just checked just a few minutes ago. So as of 12:30, we had close to 223, 24 responses. As of this evening, we are up to 242 responses, and the majority of those responses are from parents. We have had students respond, we've had paraprofessionals, we've had teachers respond, classified staff respond. So this has been really wonderful feedback, and we really appreciate. There's been a lot of accolades, a lot of kudos, a lot of pats on the back just for the thoroughness of the plan, for the detail that we put in. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who provided us with that encouragement. This was a tremendous undertaking, and we appreciate the kind words. So part one of the discussion is going to be around the school year calendar and the phase-in approach and the models proposed within the plan. So if you have questions around that, feel free to start. I'm just going to sort of talk a little bit about some of the feedback that we had as of 12:30 today. It hasn't changed a whole lot. But as of 12:30 today, upon reading the draft reopening plan, which of the following scenarios would you prefer? And at this point, as of 12:30, 39.8% prefer option A, which is a full return to campus. That means all students. As of 12:30 today, 33% preferred a hybrid model, and really the round out of that was a fully remote option. So you can see the pie's pretty split quite closely, with some preferring option C, which is they would like to remain fully remote under either option A or option B, which we do provide that option. As of this evening, the numbers really haven't changed a whole lot. Still about 22% fully remote, 38.4% fully return, and then 33.3% hybrid. So that's where we are as of the middle of the week. We are looking forward to those numbers increasing, and as people are able to listen tonight and hear more and understand some of the thinking and the why behind some of the recommendations, they will be able to make some more decisions and provide us with some more feedback. I also want to say that the important aspect of tonight and this week of public comment is it gives us an opportunity to pause and reflect on some of the recommendations that we've made. For example, I'll just give you one that I know will be a revision prior to going to the board, and that is the initial recommendation that was made by the Health and Wellness Committee to not require pre-K, K, and 1 students to wear face masks. We've gotten overwhelming feedback that there would be more comfortability of parents and staff to have the young ones wearing face masks as well as aligning with what other districts are doing. So that will be a revision that we will make in discussion with Jason Smetic and the fire chief, and we agree with that. So this is just an example of, the opportunity for the public to be able to provide us, feedback, to be able to reflect and make some minor revisions to the plan as we move closer to Monday when the board has an open public discussion, okay? So our phase-in approach, this will require a vote by the board on Monday to modify the school calendar. We felt this was really important for teachers and for students and families to slowly kind of move into the school year to ensure that we have trained everyone on safety protocols, trained everyone well on whatever learning management system we utilize to deliver remote learning, whether we're in a hybrid and or fully remote scenario, that we're able to provide teachers the time and bandwidth to be able to plan effectively, to be able to deliver high quality live instruction as well as high quality instruction remotely. And a lot of our reasoning behind this phase-in approach was really to set our staff and students and families up for success based on the feedback that we received from all of you on our spring survey following the end of our remote model following the end of school. So your feedback was taken and it was utilized, as you can see in the plan. We shared a lot of that data with you and the additional supports that families have requested. And this is our time in phase one to really put the structures and systems in place to create safety for the students, but also to make sure that we're set up to be able to be responsive and provide an even better model of delivery of teaching and learning in the fall. And we got great feedback from you about how we did in the spring, but we're committed to doing even better moving into the school year. Phase two is really going to be focusing on students beginning their experience on campus after we really set a solid foundation for our staff. They will have a 2.5-week time period, which is really going to be primarily focused on building that teacher-student relationship, the relationship between teachers and families, training families on the online platform, helping them work on the technological resources needed, us to focus on the social and emotional needs of our kids, teach safety measures and health protocols, get students into routines. Some have asked, well, why not just go remote right out of the gate? Number one, our reasoning as a team was that, the numbers in Milford are very low. I think there's 5 cases as of now, less than 1%. And we really feel like to do remote learning well, we really need to establish rapport and relationships with students and teachers. And we feel we have that time to do that now. And we also built this model in a way and for the purpose that regardless of the situation that comes, if we have a spike in COVID cases and we need to move remote, or we see a vaccine come, hopefully we can move back to school, that we're able to set ourselves up for success to be able to move fluidly between any and all of these models, because we just don't know what may or may not be coming. But first and foremost and key to learning is that relationship between teachers and students, and we want to provide them that opportunity. And have families the opportunity to be able to be well set up at home to support their students. Phase 3 is really going to be about digging into the school year and fully engaging in learning. It's at that time we're really going to do our baseline assessments and determine the different learning paths that students need. We'll be also screening for social and emotional wellness and readiness for learning. And then phase 4 is really approximately 6 weeks into school. And by that time, because we went slow to go fast, we will be in routines and able to, again, do whatever circumstance is in front of us. We'll be able to do it well, and there'll be clarity around it. So that's sort of our phase-in approach. And we were really excited to be able to present that. Model A is a full return to school, a full return with a remote option available for families who are not comfortable. Model B, we put forward 2 hybrid models. The first hybrid model is an A-B schedule. And some have asked in the feedback, why not AA-BB with a flex day in the middle? We did discuss that at length, and the feeling was, as well as the fear, was that in an AA with a break, flex day, and a BB model, some students would not see their peers or teacher for 5 consecutive days. And there was the fear, especially for the young ones, the lack of continuity and the lack of routine was too much of a con. And we also felt that, one of the big aspects of feedback we heard from families in the spring was there was this just feeling of being disconnected that children had, of being disconnected from their peers, disconnected from their classrooms, their community, their teachers. And we just felt that 5-day straight length of time where they'd be remote was sort of not answering or addressing the concern that families had expressed to us. So we are putting forward an A/B model for the secondary students. Others have raised the question, well, we were told that, there would be one hybrid model and that families would be assigned to the same, day. And now we're putting forward 2 hybrid models. And I want to explain the reason, some of the reasons, and I know our principals will be able to talk a little bit about this. There was a strong feeling, and I've definitely gotten a lot of feedback from the survey, that the younger students truly need that daily interaction in school. They're learning routines for the first time. That continuity is so critical. And them being on an alternating schedule was just detrimental to their social and emotional learning, as well as their academic learning. And just developmentally, it was more appropriate. And there was a lot of research that we had done and a lot of reading across the country that supported that perspective, that really elementary students should go daily. And the issue we ran into, it was also a model the high school really had looked at and had been very interested in as well. But as we looked closer, and Ms. Davis is here, she can also speak to that. As we looked closer at the 4x4 block schedule, it became very, very clear that an AM/PM model would not align well with the structure that is currently at the high school. It was simply something that was not possible for us to do. And then the final sort of death of the AM/PM model for the entire district was the transportation costs were simply astounding to put the entire district on an AM/PM model. And so therefore, as we said early on, we were going to look at this from a developmental perspective and put forward our best recommendation based on the developmental needs of students, the feasibility, and just our ability to support the structure. So that is why there's 2 hybrid models, and I hope that answers some of the questions on that. We're happy to take any others into the chat box. Special populations will receive on-campus instruction Monday through Friday. However, Wednesday will be AM only. And this will provide them time for intervention. I also do want to say that the secondary model, the AB day can still at this time include a Win Wednesday, where students will have the opportunity to come on campus in the AM for intervention and enrichment. So those are the models that we have recommended moving forward at this time. And then finally, Model C is fully remote learning, all district. And this would occur only if we had another spike in COVID and we went under a similar situation that we were in the spring. And so I just want to say, before I open up the chat box and open up the leadership team to answer any of your questions on the models, partnerships are key to supporting our students and families. And I just want to say, send a huge shout out and great thanks to the Boys and Girls Club. We had a great meeting with them today and discussed ways to support particularly families of our younger students, our elementary students, who have challenges with the AM/PM hybrid, that the Boys and Girls Club were working on a model of being able to partner with them to enlist their support in helping us with supervision of students and also supporting their learning and growth during their remote times in either the AM or the afternoon. So I just want to say thank you to the Boys and Girls Club for their time and their willingness to partner with us. We already got survey results back that they sent out today. I believe they've gotten 47 responses from their families, and 36 have already said they would need support for the AM/PM model. And so that data is really helpful, and that's something that we'll also be putting out when we send out the academic choice form. How can we best support you with whatever model we decide on this coming Monday. I also just want to say thank you to our faith-based organizations in the community. They also have reached out and asked how they can support us and support families and provide those wraparound services, and Share as well has been really tremendous in helping us with making sure that our families are fed and they're taken care of, and they've worked with our social workers to help us with wraparound services. So we're really, really grateful for those partners and many others that continue to help us here in Milford provide the best education we can for kids. So with that, I want to open this up for questions in the chat box. I know Ms. Michaud is going, we have no question. We have no chat box.
It doesn't appear that the tech folks were able to get that chat box up and running.
Okay.
So it looks like we do have some people who have their hand raised.
Okay.
We've got a few people who are identified as a host, and they would be able to turn on the microphones for those people. So, and you're able to turn your own microphone off, so why don't I just call your name? Lindsay?
Hi, yes. My question is, if we choose, and I think this goes here rather than academics, if we're choosing the remote plan, like we're choosing not to send our kids back to school due to either health concerns, will it be full Hvacs? And if we do, are we enrolling full-time in Hvacs, or how does that work? Because there's part-time and there's full-time, and full-time means that we take our kids out of the district and they would go to the charter school versus staying in the district. So What is that? Are you going to answer that later? Is that something that's going to be discussed? What is that going to look like?
I will answer it later, but I can quickly answer your question now. Hvacs, the online academy, our charter school, that Hvacs Academy is allowing for K-12 full enrollment, but the difference here is that they're no longer, in this situation, no longer requiring you to unenroll from your school district. So students that do participate in Hvacs may do that full time. We can also work with them to do part-time courses as well. And students do not need to unenroll from the Milford School District.
Okay. So does that mean do we go through the full-time enrollment still, or do we just continue on as a part-time student?
Yeah, I think that individual students will work with their schools, their principals, their admin teams, so that we're making the right, personalized plan for individual students. Some students might choose to go full-time through the Hvacs Academy, others only part-time, and then we're hoping to be able to also offer a remote-only type experience, and so we'll talk a little bit about that
in the future. Okay, thank you very much.
Individuals. Yep. I see another hand. Augusta? Yes?
Yeah, hey, sorry about that.
Okay.
Curious to know, is whichever plan we go with, who has the decision on that? Is it the school board or the superintendent?
So I will be making a recommendation to the board, and the board will decide on the model.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Thank you.
And Jason, I think Jason has his hand up.
Sorry about It's not actually Jason, it's Libby St. Jean. I just was wondering if I did look at the different plans, and I was just curious to know if the idea of the elementary schools, if they do decide to go with the AM/PM model, if the middle school and high school will follow the AB model or a remote model. That's really kind of what I was wondering.
That's a great question. So if the elementary is at an AM/PM hybrid, the high school and middle school will be on an AB day hybrid.
Okay.
We did discuss the possibility of, I actually had raised this question just because I have a lot of colleagues across the country that have explored the same thing of having the elementary spread across all buildings going every day, and the high school and secondary or middle school students going remote only.
Yep.
That was not something that I got a lot of warm feedback on for a variety of reasons. One of them is just the feeling of having elementary students in the high school, some of the facility changes that would have had to be made. There was cost to that. Spreading out all the elementary students and having the proper administration and supervision. There was just a lot of logistics that we felt we just didn't have the capacity or bandwidth to do well. And then just thinking about, you know, the needs of high school staff and administration to their buildings. It raised more questions than anything, but it was something we discussed, an idea that was raised and explored.
Okay, great. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So the AB model, I noticed that the AB model was tentatively Monday and Thursday, Group A would go. And then Tuesday and Friday, I think Group B would go.
Yes.
Was there any discussion as far as Group A going Monday and Tuesday, and then Group B going Thursday and Friday?
Yes, we did discuss that as a possibility. The feeling of the leadership team was that the AA Flex Day VB model, it would have students away from their teachers and peers for 5 straight days. And so that was concerning in terms of, you know, feedback that we had gotten from families in the spring in our survey, that there was just this feeling of disconnection from, you know, students from one another, from their communities, from teachers. And so we sort of weighed the pros and cons of that with, you know, students having that sort of long length of time away from their friends and teachers. And we just felt that more frequent face-to-face time was more beneficial.
Okay, wonderful. I do have another question, but I'm sure there's other people that want to ask some questions. It's more based on with that model. I can ask it now or I can ask it later. It's up to you if you want to move on.
Is it regarding academics? Because we do have a segment on academics and you can ask about.
Actually, this is more based on just the safety and the cleaning protocol. I was just curious to know as far as going the AB model with the Monday and the Tuesday, what sort of cleaning and safety protocols are going to be put in place to make sure that the entire building is cleaned and taken care of between the different groups.
So I'm going to let Bill Cooper jump in and talk about that because he has been at the forefront of that discussion.
Great, thank you.
So we're actually going to adjust our custodial staff and maintenance staff to have more. We're going to bring more people in on day shift so that we can keep up with the what I call the day-to-day, meaning the door handles, the entries, all the common areas. We have in place, we'll be cleaning rooms every 2 hours. And with the AM, PM in the elementary schools, if they decide with that, we have the electrostatic sprayers. That just came in. They just came in Tuesday. And we'll be using those along with, we have a hospital grade disinfectant that's EPA approved with the 30-second dwell time. So we'll be using that in all the classrooms, and we will be adding more people during the day. And then at night, we'll be doing a more thorough cleaning. You know, we're gonna do the best job that we can with what we have. I'm not gonna tell you that it's perfect, but I think we came up with a really good plan on how we're gonna do this. So hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering about, because I know like airports and airplanes, they have, I don't know what it's called, but they basically have like a fogger system that cleans the entire plane before the next flight takes out. So I was wondering if we had access to that type of cleaning.
Yeah, so we actually ordered them back in April, and they just came in. So
Okay.
we have one more that's supposed to do another machine that we're waiting to have come in, and that's going to do 18,000 square feet in an hour. So that'll help us like in the high school because it's so big that we can clean it a lot quicker. Not that we're making any shortcuts. So the electrostatic spray, as you know, has the positive and negative charge. So the furniture is negative, and it's going to stick to everything on every surface so that it's clean. So
Okay.
that's what we're looking for.
All right.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
All right.
So we have about 5 minutes left for this segment. Is there another question on the structures or about the?
Yes, I have a couple of
Thank
additional.
you.
I'll call on Chris.
Hi, I just have a couple of quick questions. So if elementary does daily AM, PM, are we going to be able to choose AM or PM, or will we be assigned?
Tim or Chris, do you want to take that question?
I could take it. So we had a meeting the other day with the bus company, and our plan for I think both models, whether we end up with A day, B day, or AM, PM, working with the bus company and how many students we can fit on a bus, we're looking at deciding the session based on geography and running buses that will have enough space and capacity to transport the kids that are assigned to each session with the right amount of social distancing on the bus, and then providing us about 50% capacity at the school to then have us allow for the 6-foot distancing within classrooms. So it's not going to be a sign-up model. However, we have discussed, Tim and I, the idea of if someone needs a particular schedule, it may mean that we can't provide transportation, but we may be able to assign them to the other time based on space within the classroom to still maintain the 6-foot distance between students.
Okay, and then my other question was if we do the hybrid A-B, from my understanding, it seemed as though A would sometimes be Monday, Thursday, and then sometimes Tuesday, Friday. Is it possible to have consistency, that A would always be Monday, Thursday, and B would always be Tuesday, Friday?
Could you ask that question again? I couldn't quite hear that, Chris. Would you mind asking that again?
Sure. So my question was, if we choose the hybrid A-B schedule, if it would be consistent that the A group would always go on Mondays and Thursdays, and the B group would always go on Tuesdays and Fridays, or something.
I think there might be some exceptions if you're talking about the A-B day A, day B model. There might be some exceptions based on holidays and other days throughout the school year. But yes, I would say that the majority would be Monday, Thursday for day A, and day B would be Tuesday, Friday. Wednesday is set aside for day C, or the win day, in that AB model.
If you look at, we did on the website under our reopening tab, we did put a calendar up there that outlines all of the A and B days for the entire year. So if you'd like to see exactly fall, we did prepare that for the community, and it is up on the website.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll check that out.
Okay, I have Kim Burke. Kim, did you have a question?
Sorry. Yes, sorry. It's a two-part question. The first is, if we choose a remote model and we do we have the option to stay remote for the entire year, or are we phased back in on October 19th if they feel it's safe?
Who's taking that question, folks?
My understanding is that if you do select a remote model for your child, that is a semester-long, trimester-long commitment. So whenever the trimester ends, another academic choice form will be sent out to parents, and then you can elect to either come back to school if we're in the hybrid model, or if we're fully open. I guess that the commitment needs to be for the trimester so that we can plan accordingly.
Okay. And then the other part is it through the Hvac Academy, or will it be with a Milford teacher? So if they are then chosen, like if we select then to go back in the second trimester, they'll know the teacher, or is it someone that they won't know?
It will likely be a Milford school teacher, one of our elementary school staff that will be working with the students at the elementary school level. I know that Hvac has been offered as a free service K through 12, but at this point I haven't really explored Hvac for the elementary school students. That's relatively new. Hvac is something that's been in place for some time for the high school students. And I would say the elementary school will definitely be a Milford teacher working with them to provide that remote instruction, that remote learning.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think we may have lost Christy.
Jessica, you're on mute. And I think we might have lost Christy.
We did. Amy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm with Amy. Amy's my wife. We're sitting here together. The question that we had has to do with the cleaning. So this is probably going to sound like a can't win kind of question, but because we know how important it is to clean. But one of the things we were sitting here talking about is we try to avoid a lot of, chemicals in our house, and we're worried, a little bit worried about lots of chemicals, like in the classroom. So can you share a little bit about what you'll be using to clean?
Yes, so we'll be using, it's called Spartan Defense. And it's what they use in the hospital. And we're going to be using soap and water as well. Those are the primary two cleaning agents that we have. The electrostatic sprayer that when we use to spray down at night is a tablet that you actually add to water. And it gives it the mist. We're not trying to use a lot of chemicals in any of the schools. So I know we can't get rid of them all, but we're going to try to limit the amount that we have.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Geez, I temporarily lost sound. I still have a number of hands raised. Are we continuing to take questions in this section?
So we have about 3 more minutes on structures, which is the models or the phase-in reopening. So if your question has to do that, Christy, I'll let you.
Okay. Next person with their hand up I see is Jamie Morgan.
Hi, sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Okay, so regardless of what, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, regardless of what we choose as far as what models, I am also curious about the cleaning. I know, for instance, particularly at the high school, we're down 2 maintenance positions that we are hiring for, and we've been hiring since February. And I know that often it actually takes a whole summer to clean the whole school. So how are we going to do that? And I know Bill talked about the chemical we're going to be using, and I get that it goes on the surface, but does it do the nooks and crannies of these desks that the kids are going to be squeezed into? And are we going to have, aside from that, are we going to have the, the barriers between the staff and students? How are we going to be doing the masks? Are the masks going to be worn all the time? Do they get new ones after lunch? Like, I guess I'm looking for the little details of how we're going to do this, because it sounds, I know that we're in an unprecedented situation, but it sounds so simple. We're just going to spray stuff, but I know that it's not as simple as it sounds.
So Bill, I'm gonna, it seems like the sanitation and facilities questions are the ones that are coming up. So I'm gonna move us on to this next part, which is facility sanitation. Those of you who have questions about the model or the structure, we will have a time at the end. So please hang on to your question. But I wanna keep us moving on the agenda, and it seems that this is a pressing thing. I did want to show the community, just prior to Bill getting to your question, Mrs. Morgan, just an example of what a socially distanced classroom will look like, just to give you an idea. This is at Jocks Memorial. I hope everyone can see this. And this is 6 feet apart. And this is, students will be sitting, face forward, 6 feet apart. As you can see, there will be no furniture. We'll be removing all of the furniture out of the classroom. We just wanted to kind of give people a sense. 6 feet is pretty far away. And this is just another side of the room, another angle. And there will be.
You aren't showing anything except the link.
Really? You can't see the picture?
No.
Can't see anything. No, just try and click on that link that's embedded to a Google Drive. See if that will work.
To click on the link?
Try and click on the actual picture to see if it'll open the link to where the picture is stored.
It doesn't open the link.
Oh, I did do that.
Screen share.
Right click.
Share it. You need to reshare your screen with that. So you have to stop sharing your screen and then open it and share the pictures that you have.
Okay, sorry.
We got them. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we wanted to provide the community just with a sense of what a socially distanced classroom will look like. And so Bill, do you want to talk a little bit about it, or Leslie or Tim?
Sure, no, I can. So we're following the CDC guidelines, 6 feet apart. So a socially distanced classroom will look basically with what you're saying. We're removing all personal belongings to maximize the space that we have. We have a formula that we use, which is in a 900 square foot classroom, it's 44 square feet per person. We divide that, and that's what we come up with numbers. And that's always looks good on paper. It doesn't always work that way when we're in a classroom. So this is what the classroom should look like, minus the cones, but this is what we're looking at for desks. and how we're going to socially distance in all of the classrooms throughout the district. Now, Captain Snetic and I will be walking through each building, looking at all the classrooms sometime in August to make sure that we're following what has been prescribed. But getting to, I just want to touch base on Jamie's question that she had. The electrostatic sprayers, we'll get into the nooks and crannies. There's a little bit of confusion that you had. Summer cleaning, that's because we strip all and re-wax all the floors. That's why we take everything out. That's why it takes us 8 weeks. We're not doing that during the school year. We're cleaning. And I know we're down 2 people, but we're actually going to incorporate the 4 maintenance people to help out. And it's all hands on deck for this pandemic. I have no other way to put it except we're all going to be working to make sure that all the classrooms and all the buildings are clean. So it's a rather large task for everyone, but I think we can do it with the people we have. So we are looking at, I do have interviews set up, and we'll be looking to hire 1 or 2 new staff members for custodial staff so that we can refill those positions. So we're going to put all the classrooms at 6 feet as best we can. We're removing all the personal belongings. The large spaces, this has come up. We've talked about this many times, and it's to shutter them. Large spaces, meaning the cafeteria and gymnasiums, places like that. We would like to shutter them to have no groups. And we also may need them, one or 2 of them, depending on which school we're at, for storage of the furniture that we have to take out of all the classrooms. Because this all can't go down to bales underneath in the basement. There's a lot of furniture that's going to be moved around. We'll be starting on that next week to start to get the classrooms all set up. So that's what we're doing there. The cleaning schedule we went over and we were looking at. The deep cleaning will happen at the end of each school day and in between sessions at the elementary schools if we decide to go with that. Like I said, we'll be utilizing all of the buildings and ground staff, which means the four maintenance people will be helping out in the each school. The electrostatic sprayer should help us tremendously because we can cover a lot more ground with those. They're just tough to get. Everyone's after them, and it took us a long time just to get those. So I think we have a good plan in place. So we will be
to the classroom. I wanted to explain the cones. When that picture was taken, it was just yesterday. We were trying to see what 10 students maybe lining up to go outside for recess and what socially distancing looked like. So that's what the cones represented. It was the students in the classroom, and we actually used a tape measure throughout the classroom to make sure there was enough way for students to access various sites within the classroom, such as coat hooks, hand washing station. We know that bubblers would not be used, but a hand washing station would be. So we were trying to think of all the scenarios of where students and staff need to access.
So we'll be putting hand sanitizer in each of the classroom, in every classroom, in every building in the district, along with a quart bottle of the hospital grade disinfectant, which has a 30-second dwell time. And then we will be supplying 1 or 2 packages of wipes to start off with. and however many that they use, we'll just keep resupplying. We do have a tremendous amount of gloves on hand, so we can hand those out as well. We have purchased hand sanitizing stations that will be placed at every entrance at every building, and we will monitor them and refill them as needed. So we'll be doing that. We also have we picked up, before I get into HVAC, we purchased all the decals, stickers, whatever you want to call them, for the floors and the walls and the doors, so that we can maintain social distance in all the schools. So we're waiting for that to come in. So getting on to the HVAC, which I know I have weekly meetings with other directors, other facility directors throughout the state, and we get on with the state. And this has been a hot topic for everyone. So there's a lot of talk about going to a better filter, what they call a MERV 13. We're using a MERV 11, and the reason we're not moving up is the MERV 13, it's finer, and it gives you more air resistance, which in the long run, with the newer units, it'll work fine. Some of the older units, it may cause failure of the fan motors. So we decided that we were gonna have the MERV 11s and we were gonna change them monthly. We usually do them quarterly, but with everything that's going on, we're gonna do them monthly. We're cleaning the units in August. We're gonna go through like our regular PM schedule, and we'll start with a baseline there. The other thing that we're looking at is the bipolar ionization units for every unit in the district. It comes at a cost. So for the ones, if I were to use them in the units at JOCs, which are room units, they're about $550 each. With the bigger units, we're up to $3,500. So I had a meeting today with our HVAC contractor, and we're getting prices on all of that. So I will have a better number for everyone once they get back to me. And we are looking at costs to clean all the ductwork throughout the district as well. Can I get the next slide, please? So if you go back one. So the schedules for the buildings, that basically tells all the units when to turn on, when to turn off, when to, we need heat or we need cooling. That meeting that I had today, the discussion that came up was, we want to move air through the building. So one of the things that we would like to do is purge the buildings multiple times during the early evening and night, which means we're just turning them on and keeping them going and then shutting them off for a couple hours. We will be keeping all of our exhaust fans on 24/7, which helps move some of the air through the building. And we're looking at each building individually. We're not just saying this schedule is going to work everywhere. We're actually looking at each building, and we'll fine tune it for that building, because the needs of JOCs is different from the needs of the middle school. So we're looking at every avenue that we can do to help move the air, make sure it's clean, make sure that we capture as possible. Any questions?
So we do still have people with their hands raised. It does look like we now have the chat window open. So folks can ask questions there, and we can also respond there as well. I'm going to call on Amy next. Amy, did you have a question? I see that your hand is raised. All right, I'm going to move on to
So,
Stacy.
I'm sorry, I was
Oh.
struggling to unmute the phone. My question was more on the phase section, and I didn't get a chance to ask it. It is related to when will parents, or I guess the district, be notified whether they're going to be the AM or PM schedule or AB? I read the plan and it said schedules were going to be released the week before, but I didn't know if that meant like English, math, science, or if it meant which plan you were going to get as a student.
Right, that's a great question. So just following the board meeting, we will be sending out all district an academic choice form. And this is where parents will be making their choice of preference of which model. So if the board decides on a hybrid model, they will make their preference either to go with the board's decision and or remote. If the board goes with a remote decision, all district, then there's really no choice to fill out, but we will be asking parents to provide us their preference in that academic choice form. And those forms will be due back to the buildings on August 10th, which is the following Monday. If we do not receive, after doing everything we can to get that form back, we will assign families to a specific A or B day. We also are going to request, or we're going to say, if you do choose remote, versus what the board's model is, that you are committing to a full semester of that, moving through the fall.
Right, but when will parents be notified as to what should they get?
So that will take the team about a week to sift through 2,370 student forms. So that will probably be within, the following week to week and a half.
Okay, thank you.
Stacy has the next question.
Hi there. Bill, could you just remind me, you said the contact time for the electrostatic sprayer?
No, I said the contact time for the disinfectant that we're using in the classrooms is 30 seconds. It's the
Okay.
total time.
And what is
I haven't looked at the, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, is what right now with the ESY, like are they doing 2 sessions right now? Because that's leading up to my next question.
Yes, I believe they are.
Okay, and what is the timing between the 2 sessions?
I don't know what the time is there. I think Santina may be able to answer that one.
I believe it's about 30 minutes.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if even with that 30 minutes, is that enough time to do that deep cleaning should AM, PM go through?
I think we're going to have a longer time in between if that AM, PM goes through. And if we have 3 to 4 people in the building with the sprayers and the amount of hands we have on deck, I believe that we can get in and do the classrooms. Now, it won't be a deep clean. We're not going to get in the back of the cabinets and all that. We're doing the tops of the desks, the chairs, all the metal frames, the doors, the door handles, the countertops, the sink, anything that we think that they would have touched. And that's how we're going to do that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And the other question I think would be either for Dr. Huizinga or maybe one of the principals. And so to get the classrooms to do the picture that you posted, although the curtains I'm pretty sure need to be down as well, but will the teachers be expected to do that all before they return on August 24th?
I'll take that one. No, buildings and grounds will be moving the classrooms around. We're going to need the teaching staff to come in and to get their personal belongings, and I haven't figured out when that's going to happen, but custodial and maintenance staff will be working on the classrooms, setting them up, social distancing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
See somebody here by the name of, looks like Buckyverse 9.
Yeah, that's my phone giving me that name. Okay, so I have a few questions. I'll try and be quick at them. I heard about hand sanitizers. I wondered if there was any thoughts towards moisturizer, because I know when I was heavily hand sanitizing, my fingers were dry and cracking, and I assume that the children would be in that situation, especially if it's mandatory. And then kind of related to that is tissues and allergy season. Is there a protocol for what's going on with kids with allergies and how they blow it? Do they go to the bathroom and not? And then is there any eating at school and or drinking, and I guess people bringing straws and water bottles or something? Because I mean, parched throats are going to happen even if lunch is occurring. And so that's all kind of related to what the kids are doing on campus. And then the other question is, are students going to be screened in some way, like temperature checks at the door? And for families that travel out of state and come back, do they have to affirm that they haven't traveled or whatever before their students are re-entering the school, you know, when we're talking about breaks and people traveling, February break, et cetera?
I can take a few of those questions for you. The elementary school at Jocks and Heron Pond, we will not be eating lunch in our lunchroom like we normally do every school year. Students will have breakfast in the morning. They'll be served breakfast for the morning session, and they'll be able to enjoy that in their classroom. Those will be delivered to their classroom, and they'll eat them in their classroom. The same thing with the afternoon session. Lunches will be delivered to classrooms. So while there will be eating, it's a big part of the school day, eating with your peers and the social emotional learning that takes place with that. It won't take place in a large group in the cafeteria. I should also mention this, you know, the morning session group will be served lunch to take home with them. Students who are on free reduced lunch or want to order lunch from the school will have the opportunity to do so. We do plan on screening students for temperature upon entry into the building. There's a device, I think, Bill, you can speak more to the device, but these devices actually will fit near the doorway and will be able to screen for a temperature, identify students who have a temperature above 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So students and staff will be screened before entering the building on a daily basis. And I don't remember a lot of the other questions. I can't really answer.
Yeah,
yeah, sure. As far as the temperature takers, yes, we've ordered 13 of them. They should be in mid-August, and it takes 2 seconds per person. Now that's up to the school board and the superintendent to have those put in and have them used, but we will have them ready to go. So we plan on having 3 at the high school, 3 at the middle school, 3 over at Heron Pond, 3 at Jocks, and 1 over at Bales. And that's, right now, that's how we have them laid out, but that can change at any time. As far as drinking and straws and all that, I think that's something that food service is going to have to answer on what we're doing. We are in discussion about water fountains, and so I'm not sure if we're where we stand on that one right now. I know we're getting locking caps for the water bubblers so that they can't use those, but we also have the bottle fillers at the middle school and the high school. So we're talking about that one as well. So
thank you very much. And the one, in case it got missed because I threw a lot at you, I just want to know where my responsibility lies with regard, because I have 4 students in the system. So, you know, if we travel, you know, not that that's likely, but if we have to or something, do I need to keep them all out of school? Is it dependent on the state requirements, or, you know, is it a kid by kid basis, so that, you know, I'm doing what's right by my neighbors?
To be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if any other of the subcommittees tackled that. If families travel out of state, that's something I think I haven't thought too much, or maybe we've overlooked that.
So this is Laura Siebert, Human Resources, and I can speak. I was co-chair of the Health and Wellness Committee with Chris Saunders, and I can speak. We did speak about travel restrictions as it applies to staff, and I would highly recommend that that's the same for students. That if you are, the CDC guidelines and the DHHS guidelines are that if you are traveling outside of New England area, particularly on a plane, that we request that you self-isolate for a period of 14 days or 2 school weeks, and then come back. And that's just taking that extra precaution if the travel is absolutely required.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That gives me a better path to go by. I just hope that there's some thought to, if a student has to isolate at the house for 2 weeks after returning from something, even if it's like a necessary thing, family obligation or something, can they switch to all remote under those circumstances? Anyway, I assume it takes thought and deliberation, so I don't expect an answer. Thank you very much.
Certainly, anytime a student is out of school, whether that be for sickness or due to quarantine, we would be providing educational opportunities. So that remote instruction would take over for that period of time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. A couple more questions in this section, then we'll move on and certainly have time for questions at the end. Let me move on to Nichelle.
Hi. I just wanted to go back real quick to a statement that was made earlier. Someone asked about ESY. And I just want to clarify, currently there are no in-person ESY sessions. Is that correct? Someone said 30 minutes between ESY sessions, but I was under the impression they were all remote.
Santina?
Yes, we do have for a limited number of students in-person ESY.
Okay. And are they doing cleaning in between those sessions?
Yes, they are.
Okay, that was my primary question. Thank you.
Okay.
Kim Daniels.
Hi. So I just had a quick question. As a teacher, I often need to, show students things on their Chromebooks or look at projects. Will teachers be allowed to put up plexiglass or petitions like those sneeze guard things that we see to allow for safer interactions with students in a case where we might need to, come within, closer than the 6-foot distance?
So I'll answer part of that, and then Bill, you can jump in and answer that. All staff will be provided face masks, and we just recently had a community member parent offered to donate 500 face shields for all of our staff in the Milford School District. So every teacher will also have a face shield as well. Bill, do you want to talk about the plexiglass component?
Sure. We're looking at the plexiglass component, and I'm looking at 3 or 4 different manufacturers. To get them for the teaching staff at the high school, middle school, after discussion, we figured that would work there, but it really won't work in the elementary. But we can provide, I think we were looking at 220, 250 of them. I would have to get a number once we socially distance all the classrooms. If we were to provide them for each student's desk, I have to get a number of how many we need and then get a cost for that. But we are looking into those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's move on to the next section, and there are certainly lots of people who have their hand raised, so we'll get back to some of those questions after this segment.
Oh, thank you, Christy. So as I said earlier in my opening remarks, we've gotten tremendous feedback already from the feedback form on the reopening plan, and a lot of feedback was about pre-K, K, and 1 students wearing masks. And so we are going to be making that revision to require our littlest learners to be wearing masks. Again, with the exception that while eating or during strenuous activity or at their desks, they can remove them. Now, in terms of the younger students, we understand that there may be issues with some of them being able to tolerate those masks. We are confident that the teachers at Hvac are going to help those students work through that. Face coverings and PPE section, we'll revise that on page 22. So that will be happening in the next couple of days. But I'm sure that this is probably the most important segment to the community. So we would love to take your questions on health and safety protocols.
All right, let me move on to the next person here, Jason St. Jean.
Hi, sorry about that. I really need to change the name Jason because it's really me, Libby. I just wanted to clarify, I know you talked about the cleaning between the AM and PM. So what is the time frame between, if we were to go with that model, what the cleaning time would be between the AM and PM model for the elementary? I guess this is a question for Bill Cooper.
Yeah, so we're looking at, I think, about an hour, maybe just a little over an hour between sessions at Hvac. And I'm very confident that we can hit all the classrooms in that period of time with 3 to 4 staff members, my staff working on it. So I'm pretty confident that we can do that. I did talk with Chris Saunders about Heron Pond. And seeing that they're not going to be using all of the classrooms while they do this, I'm pretty confident that we can get to and clean those classrooms as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. How about Susan Smith?
Hi. I got the impression from an earlier question that was asked that maybe some people are assuming that masks are going to be provided for all the students, which was not my assumption. So I'm just curious if you guys are planning for that, or what the expectation is with regard to who's providing masks for the students. Whether it's the parents or the school or what.
In terms of who's providing it?
Yeah, so is the expectation that parents are providing masks for the students, or?
So we did ask that question as part of our early July survey. And what we found was the majority of parents want to provide their students their own masks. We will have the very basic medical masks available for students who don't have one. But what we found based on the data that we got was that parents prefer to provide their children their own masks.
Right, okay. So is there any expectation that the kids are going to be changing their masks at some point during the day or anything like that? Like, I think that was the question somebody asked.
That's not something that we discussed. We assume that the students who come with their own cloth masks are going to keep them throughout the day, and when they take them home at night, they're going to clean them as their families see fit. And again, those students who receive masks from us, those sort of medical type masks, they'll have them throughout the day.
And those would hopefully be disposed of after that day.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Jen Rodoti.
Yes, hi. I was wondering about teachers who have to quarantine because of the travel restriction. Would they be allowed to teach from home, or would they be on some sort of leave? And if so, what kind of leave would that be?
Hi, Jen, it's Laura again. So we'd have to look at each case and where we are in the scheme of things, but if there's available remote teaching and we can provide that accommodation, we certainly will request that they telework, if you will, for that period of time. And then if there isn't a position, because then we would address it. But my anticipation is that hopefully we won't run into this too often with our staff, but if that need came up, we would look at that first.
How about Paula's iPhone?
Paula's iPhone.
Hey, how you doing? I wanted to start off first with the comment before my question. No, I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I was pretty confident that I was going to keep my boys home for remote. One's a high schooler, one's a middle schooler. The middle schooler has a compromised immune system, as do I. And from what I'm hearing, I was very pleasantly surprised how you guys have put a great plan together. I feel pretty confident now, which I have not up until this meeting started. So I want to thank you for that. But I do have a couple of questions, because it was stated earlier you will have something at the entrances of each school that will measure the temperature of each student. And I believe you said anything over 100.4 would be an indicator, kind of like a flag. But it's been proven that not having a temperature doesn't mean you don't have the virus. That's just one small thing you can look into, but that doesn't mean any student or teacher or staff member is free and clear. And what happens if a kid sneezes or coughs or complains that they're sick? Do they get sent home? If so, do they quarantine until a test comes back negative? Do you have to contact every student, teacher that said student came into contact with? Do they all have to quarantine? I mean, you guys, I don't envy you guys at all. I'm just looking for answers here. I mean, this is rough.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Thank you for the kind words. In the back of the plan, you can see there's a pretty detailed flow chart and protocol that speaks to exactly the question you're asking. I don't have it right in front of me at this moment. I'm not sure if one of my team members does.
It's page 29, Jessica.
Thank you. Page 29 in the plan actually lays out exactly what will happen in those circumstances. And we also outline in the back of the plan how families will be contacted, how contact tracing will be done. I've been working very, very closely. Jason Smedick and I are like on the phone almost daily now, really working through all of these situations and scenarios. And so we'll be working really closely with town officials if that were to happen.
Okay, I guess I'm just a little weary because, I mean, I don't have to tell any of you. It's a matter of days or weeks before the coughing, the sneezing, the sore throats begin. And I just don't see how we're going to keep the schools open. It's going to be this vicious circle. And again, I don't envy you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, I don't know if, I can't really see where you are, but if you could talk a little bit about just the exposure process and, you know, the different types of safety measures that we're putting into place and how that may or may not decrease the possibilities of getting COVID.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. So close contact is defined by 6 feet or less for a period of 15 or more minutes. And basically what we've done by amending the mask requirement is we're cutting that. There's some studies out there that show, you know, as much as 60 to 65% when people are wearing masks. So this is going to be helpful moving forward. I think we have, with the algorithm that we use in the emergency services and the one that you folks have developed, it's a solid plan in place. It's not perfect, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. Again, Bill's cleaning plan is about as solid as they come. We're very happy with that. Both Chief Flaherty and I have been working in very close contact with everybody, and you know, we're happy where we are at so far.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Jolene Sawyer.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to, well, first of all, thank you for all the work that the task force did and the building administrators did. I know that this is a huge undertaking, so thank you for all you guys have done. I wanted to ask a question. If kids choose the option to be in school, if that is an option that the school board, if the school board does support that option, is there some sort of plan before kids do this to prepare them for what a new school day is going to be like? Because I imagine that, you know, I think we think about the trauma of being at home in remote circumstances, but I also think this new reality could cause a lot of undue stress and anxiety for kids if they aren't properly prepared ahead of time. So I'm just wondering if you have a plan in place to kind of get kids ready before they step in the building, if they do step in the building.
Yes, in fact, that's part of our phase-in reopening. That's phase 2 of the reopening process. And so those couple of weeks are going to be specifically focused on that very thing. You know, working on building rapport and relationships, getting students into routines, training them on the safety protocols, training them on, you know, the learning platforms that they're going to be expected to do. So that entire time really is going to be dedicated specifically for this reason, because we are concerned. It's hard enough to start a regular school year and get back into a routine, but students will have been out of school for about 6 months by that time. And they're also going into a new reality that's going to be very, very different, with quite a few restrictions, a significant number of restrictions that they've never experienced in school before. So we plan on taking our time to really work with kids to set them up for success in this model.
Great, thank you.
And Jolene, I think I understand your question to be maybe even before students step foot in the building on their A or B day. And I think that that's definitely something that our school teams can think about putting together, a short video clip that can be sent out to students prior to their first day, where they can basically take a look at what is it going to look like when I get off the bus, or when I get out of my parents' car, when I enter the building. All of those steps right up to entrance into their classroom could be helpful to many students that are wondering, what is that procedure going to look like? So that's certainly something our school teams can do even prior to that September 10th date.
Great, thank you. That is what I had in mind. Thank you.
Elizabeth Solon.
Hi, so I'm a teacher and I just had a question. I'm wondering if all of the board members and admin are willing to run through a day as a student with all the requirements and everything else that you're putting in place to see what these kids are going to go through, because it seems like the last person said, this is all very new, and I'm just worried that it's not in their best interest, and I'm wondering if the board or anyone else has actually tried to do what we're asking the students to do for 8 hours a day.
Well, that's certainly a good suggestion, and appreciate that. Let's take note of that suggestion. Let's move on to Sarah. Looks like Sarah has her hand up.
Hi, yes, thank you. I hope this isn't getting too much into the details, but as far as the requirement for masks for students, and I'm concerned particularly for the little ones, can we just clarify that language required and not highly recommended? But if you show up at school without a mask, you will be provided with a mask. If you refuse to wear your mask, there are steps to be taken to ensure you put on that mask. I just want to make sure that we're really, really clear on that word required.
Yes, so we are going to have to put in some very strict guidelines to ensure that everybody adheres to the mask requirement, and they will be put into place. I already started having discussions today to begin to lay out those processes and procedures. And those will be clearly communicated to families and to students prior to the start of school.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for all the great questions that have come in so far. There's still lots of hands up, and I think that we'll need to move on to the next segment, but please hang on to your questions and we'll get to you.
And also feel free to put them in the chat too, because we can download those questions and we can put together a more frequently asked questions list and send that out to the community to make sure that we're getting all of them answered for you. And also don't ever hesitate to reach out to any one of us on the leadership team. We're happy to answer your questions via email as well. So the last segment is academics. Christy, I'm going to let you take this as it is your area.
Great. Great. The next few slides just sort of give you an overview of what to expect regarding academics and instructional planning. As you saw and heard about in phase 1, we are really dedicating that time to planning and preparing, as well as some training on a variety of educational practices with our entire staff. We know that our educational practices are going to need to be fluid, and we're going to be creating lesson plans that can move between remote and on campus, and doing all of that without compromising quality, and really ensuring that students have an equitable experience regardless of whether they are choosing a remote only option or a hybrid option. One of the things that we know we're going to need to do is identify some priority standards and some learning targets that will be set for each class for a set period of time. Our teachers will be engaging in some of that work during those startup days. And we want to make sure, as parents have asked, and gave us the feedback in the surveys, that students and parents have a clear understanding of what those learning targets are for that set period, how that learning can be demonstrated, again, whether a student is remote or on campus, how the learning targets will be measured, as well as that grading and reporting piece. We will have a common platform used by all educators. At this time, we are recommending that platform to be Google Classroom, which many students and families are already very familiar with. Again, as asked by many students and families, as well as our educators, we will share some clear, common, and consistent expectations. Those communications will come out by each school, and we'll address things such as how to access classwork remotely, how to contact educators when working remotely or on campus, submitting assignments, utilizing resources. All of those tidbits of information we know are super important to both students and families, as well as our educators. So those will be clear and will be provided at the start of our instructional school year. Students that will be remote, again, this may be remote instruction solely, or a situation where students are in a hybrid model of on campus and remote their next day. Regardless of what model, again, we really want to ensure that students are engaged in quality instruction, that the tasks are rigorous and are comparable for that level of equity for all students. As I mentioned earlier, the Hvac Online Academic Academy is providing coursework for students K-12, and they have waived their requirement of unenrolling in your school district prior to enrolling in the academy. So students will be able to maintain their enrollment with the Milford School District. We'll also be looking at some coursework through Edgenuity, and again, that is just an interactive platform that has coursework for students in grades 6 through 8, as well as 9 through 12. Those students that will be remote, they can expect new content and instruction. We'll be looking at both that synchronous and asynchronous model of live instruction and or pre-recorded instructional videos for students to watch at a time that works for them and their families. Students will be completing independent tasks in the same way they did this past spring, working on ongoing projects. We're going to encourage more of an ongoing project type assignment as opposed to something that is assigned on a Monday and is expected to be returned on a Thursday. We'll be looking at setting students up with projects where they'll have some check-in points over a period of time. Also, we expect a lot of our remote instruction to be assigned through interactive learning programs. Many of our students are already utilizing, and our teachers are utilizing programs such as Lexia, IXL, Khan Academy. So we can expect that as well as we go into the new year. Depending on what our numbers look like after August 10th, when we get those academic choice forms back from our families, and we hear more from our teachers, we'll be looking at the possibility of reassigning or regrouping students. Also looking at the possibility of assigning teachers to remote-only students. And here on my last slide, just to give you a sense of that baseline assessment and support, we know that students are returning to school in a variety of places and in varying levels of readiness. We will be looking at using some of our baseline assessments as we typically do in September. However, administering late in September in that phase that we said phase 3. Again, we want to make sure that students have time to acclimate to a new school year, develop those relationships, those routines, really get situated before we start to take a look at their academic readiness. Also, phase 2 is very important in addressing the social emotional and some of the mental health needs of our students. So our school teams are prepared to support families in that way. And again, what is that phase 2 really focusing on? It's that building the relationships, routines, and ensuring that students are well and are ready to access their academic studies. Again, regardless of what model they might be in. That Win Wednesday is an important day for students to receive additional support, some intervention or remediation, and enrichment opportunities for some students. We will be looking to invite students on campus as well as provide remote support to students on Wednesdays as well. And lastly here, we certainly know there is a great need and varying needs of students and parents around technology support. So something that came out of our specific task force was the idea of dedicated Chromebook devices for student use, dedicated tech support for remote learning. So again, ensuring that our families know who to contact and for what purpose to help support those technology needs, as well as assisting with any of the remote learning excess. Here's something, just a snapshot of something that was posted to our website just this past week, something that families and students might want to start getting acclimated to. It's online access to tutorials. You'll see that there's a variety of different programs that we use in our classrooms in our schools, everything from the Google Drive to Word documents. There's a whole variety of things there that you'll see that just below each of those icons are some hyperlinks to videos and just support documents and tutorials to help students and families. Also, we expect that in the first month or so of school that we'll have some remote parent nights and some informational support, probably this sort of thing, so that we can help students and families with some of the technological programs, Google Classroom support, that type of thing as needed.
I almost, yeah. Oh. Was there a question?
Go ahead, Jess, if you want to do the athletic slide, and then we can open up for some additional questions. There are a lot of people with their hands up.
Okay. All right. I feel like I need a dun 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 because athletics is a big, big conversation. I know. The NHIAA is planning on having fall sports, from what I've heard. And I don't have answers in terms of, the position the district is going to take on fall sports. I know they're important to students, they're important to families, they're important to a community. But there are questions and considerations that I'm just going to throw out that I've already begun to have conversations with Chief Flaherty about as recently as today. But questions around how do we manage social distancing, not only within our community in terms of spectators, right? Families wanting to watch their children play, but managing social distance, exposure from visiting teams as well. And then exposure across communities. I know that I've had conversations already with the high school principal about concerns in regards to athletics and the movement between communities. Right now, Milford is doing very well in terms of our numbers. Other communities, as I talked to Chief Flaherty today, are already starting to see spikes. So the question is that worth the risk? Also, we have to think about locker rooms and how we are going to properly social distance, clean, and maintain locker rooms, not just for visitors, right? Not only, for our own children, but also for visiting students as well. Audiences, do we have sports with no audiences? Do we, put out, first sign up and you get to go see the games? See, there's so many complex questions that we're going to have to answer in order to meet the guidelines. And we look forward to guidance from the NHIAA and from the state. Restrooms and access to buildings also is another question as well. So these are just some things that are another layer of things that we'll be discussing and thinking about moving forward.
All right, so let's move on to some additional questions. Nadine has a question.
Hi, good evening. I had a question in regards to the academics, particularly at the high school in regards to advanced placement courses. If we are going to an AB model or complete remote for the high schoolers, and they are currently enrolled, I have a son currently enrolled in an advanced placement class that has a lab attached to it, how is that going to look given the guidelines that surround advanced placement courses? And are they still going to be receiving the full credit for it if we go to these models?
So our plan is to continue to run our AP classes as we usually would, but there would have to be modifications if there were labs that required two people to work closely together or in close contact. There would have to be modifications. Our AP classes are typically low enrollment, like between maybe 12 and 15 students. So it would be possible to have, those, let's say that you had 8 students on an A day and 8 students on a B day, you could easily distance them in a lab situation.
Okay, and what if we had to go remote? How would the lab work for that?
I do not know. That would have to be something that the teachers would have to work out. I know that in the AP courses, there's a tremendous amount of sharing that goes on of ideas. The science department has already begun thinking about those possibilities that if we went remote, how could they replicate labs even for students that aren't in AP through safe household items. So there will be a plethora of sharing amongst AP teachers on how to do those labs safely. And I think that our teachers would also look to what was done in the spring as well. And we also plan on trying to meet those lab needs school-wide for any student who's in a science lab class.
Okay, great. And would they still receive the full credit for it, given these models?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Lara, do you have a question? Looks like Lara.
Yep. Sorry, getting the remote. I mean the pause off. My question is with if we go back fully on campus, have you guys worked out like morning programs for the kids and things like that? Like New Morning comes in the morning for the elementary kids. Would they still be doing that, and would they be being bused to Heron Pond?
In our hybrid plan, we are not having, our plan calls for no outside organizations to be using our facilities so that we can maintain cleanliness in the buildings. We are working very closely right now to come up with a different after school and before school care scenario with the Boys and Girls Club. We did talk to them earlier today. This is going to look different again this year. Especially for our elementary school students, if we do the AM and PM session. The Boys and Girls Club did talk to us today about running a concurrent session for supervision and support for that remote learning piece. So if a student attends school in the AM, they can attend the Boys and Girls Club for their PM session and vice versa. But because our hybrid model calls for all buildings to be closed, and outside organizations not have any access to our buildings, New Mornings will not be running on site if we start with that hybrid plan option, or obviously the remote option.
So it's just the Boys and Girls Club that you guys are working with? It's not any of the other?
I mean, at this point, that's all we've had conversations with. I don't know if it'll supplement the AM/PM session model or the AB model. If that's what's selected, we'd be glad to sit down and talk with them. And I think this is important for our families to have an awareness and options for supervision of their child when they're not at school. And so those organizations that already provide after school and before school care or AM and PM sessions are going to do the same, which is great. And I really appreciate their support with this.
Okay, and then the other question I had was somebody had mentioned about kids with allergies. I know from my child from November to March, she constantly is sneezing and having runny noses and things like that. How is that going to be handled within the classrooms?
So those are symptoms of COVID-19. When we have a student that we know has allergies and sometimes displays these symptoms on a regular basis, that's something that the school nurse and the parent will discuss. But right now our protocol calls for any student who displays symptoms, and there's a lot of symptoms that are associated with COVID-19, to be placed in quarantine in the school, and then parents are contacted to come pick the child up. So I think that when it comes to students who have a regular illness, or they display these symptoms due to something like allergies or some other illness that we are aware of, then that's going to take some conversations with our school nurse, with Captain Smedic and others involved, so we know exactly what we're dealing with, and we may need to do something different with that particular process or protocol for those kids.
Okay, thank you.
Natasha?
Hi there. I was wondering, when there is a model decision, whether it's the AB or whatever, are we able to make the choice to pull them from that and do remote, or are we kind of not stuck, but are we committed to that semester or whatever of that model?
Yeah, that is an option, I think, throughout the school year. Again, I think what I mentioned earlier is if you intend to start the school year with remote learning, that we ask that you keep that commitment for the trimester. But if any time during the school year you feel that remote learning is the best option for your child, so if that happens, say mid-trimester, mid-semester, that you continue for that rest of that trimester in that remote setting. But that is an option that we're going to, I think, support for parents during this, pandemic
All right,
crisis. Is if they feel that the environment at school is unsafe.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
Nicole Toby.
Yes, hi, thank you. So going back, this is kind of a crazy question, but family gatherings come holiday time, like Thanksgiving, granted that I'm sure most people have less than 15 people in their house, but there is no reason to isolate after seeing assorted friends or family during holidays, correct?
Laura or Chris, can you mention whether or not that was taken up by your subcommittee specifically?
So we didn't talk beyond travel. If you're getting together with family members and it's going to be the family that's using that judgment and assuming that everybody's from in-state and local, that, I can't imagine that we would be in a position where we could say, please self-isolate under those circumstances.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. And also for most of us supplying our children with masks, I'm sorry, I apologize. I just had my 3 kids come home and now it's like chaos here. Mask regulations for the families to supply to their children. Do we have, do they have to be, triple layer, or, are there any sort of specifications that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, so our school nurse on our health and wellness committee did make good recommendations about the types of masks that's outlined in the plan. Okay. I think there's preference of masks that the loop goes behind the ear for a more secure fit. But we didn't get into the number of ply or using a filter, primarily that it's cleaned daily and that it's fits well.
Okay, all right, makes sense. And lastly, very quick, the bubblers I understand will be closed, but did I understand right that the refill stations will be open, or will that be closed as well?
Bill, to answer that one.
Yeah, so we're still discussing that. Whether close off the bottle filler, because it's supposed to be, they're not touching anything really. They're putting the bottle there. So we haven't come up with a answer for that yet.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if I'm being neurotic or it's just, when they go to put it underneath where it fills, if that child.
You're no more neurotic than I was, because I thought.
Yeah, okay.
So it's we're trying to keep everyone safe, and I'm thinking of all the, we prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But
exactly, amen. Yeah, well, it's the what ifs. What if that child does have it, and where they drank brushes up against the little piece, the faucet that fills it, and for the next child, would the virus catch on and be live and then transfer?
You have to remember, we don't have those we only have the bottle filling stations in the middle and high school. We don't have them in the elementary school yet.
Correct. Okay, that's what I thought. Well, that's good. Yeah, I have 1 child in each school this year. I have all 3 schools going. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And again, with someone said earlier, I don't envy you guys at all either. I'm just jaw dropping at these decisions. Wow. God bless you all.
Thank you. We have a question from, looks like E. Wilborn's iPhone.
Sorry, I was taking myself on mute. I do have a question about, although I'm like a huge advocate for face masks, I have daughters in all 3 schools. And I do know in the summer, the classrooms get really, well, not in summer, but the school year, the classrooms get really, really hot. How are we going to keep masks on kids when the temperatures in the classrooms are ridiculously hot? Do we have a plan for that?
I can speak to that a little bit, at least at my level. You know, at JOCS, we have the kindergarten and first graders, and it's going to take some time for our students to build that comfort level, to get used to wearing masks. And I think that masks really are ideal to, you know, to prevent, it's been shown, studies have shown, but if we're socially distancing and occasionally we might build in some mask breaks throughout the day where they can take them off if they're a certain space apart. You know, that would be a way to kind of, you know, to meet their needs or their comfort. But again, I think that at my level, that is something we're going to have to work with our students on and help them and support them with building that level of tolerance to wear a mask while they're at school in the AM PM session for 2.5 hours a day. It's difficult.
We also, I just want to, sorry. I also just want to reiterate that when students are at their desks, they are allowed to pull down their masks while they're seated at their desks, when they're up around, moving around the room, in the hallways. So they will get some reprieve while they're at their desk sitting, because the desk will be spaced 6 feet apart and will be able to maintain social distancing. So that will give them some bit of reprieve from being in the masks all day long while they're at their desks.
I guess my only other question about that is, what about the teachers?
What does that mean? So the teachers are all going to be provided the face shields. They will have their masks on during class. We are, as Mr. Cooper said, looking at plexiglass for the secondary classroom so that teachers can teach from behind that plexiglass. However, when they are moving around the room and they are in close proximity to the students, they will need their masks on and will have the face shields as well. So we're trying to put in multiple precautions for teachers and students while they're in class.
Thank you for your question. Marianne Gallagher, did you have a piece that you wanted to share?
I did. I just want to talk about the water situation. I've had some conversations, and our goal, once we know what the
Marianne, I think we're unable to hear you, or at least I am.
bottles for kids, because the ultimate goal is to not let them bring stuff in that they've had their hands all over and it gets left around. At least this way we will be able to have a little bit more control over it, and we will have water for them. There will not be any, as far as I know, and I know Bill has brought that up about the water bubblers and the water station that we have. Realistically, it can't be available. It doesn't matter. Kids will touch it. I see it all the time in the cafeterias. So we will supply water. I'm just not sure how that's going to look right now, but whether it's a water station where kids come and get it, or the teacher or an aide, or however that's going to work during the day, we will have water available.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.
I believe there's a somebody with their hand raised, and it just says iPhone or iPad. I'm sorry.
Yep, that's me.
Okay.
My question is, how am I going to be guaranteed that these students who haven't seen each other, some of them since March, all they've done is FaceTime or call on the telephone or cell phone, how are you going to keep them 6 feet apart?
Well, all I can say is what my grandmother and mother always said to me, there's no guarantees in life, right?
Right, because I know that some of these parents that have talked tonight, they haven't fully social distanced as it is. So I'm just worried about my grandson who has allergies and whatever. I want to make sure that he's going to be safe if he has to go back to school.
And we want the same thing. That's going to be our number one priority. That's why we're going to be putting as many safeguards in place. Our hallways will be lined. There will be markers maintaining 6 feet of distance. Desks will be 6 feet apart. It's going to be a different way of life in schools for kids. And that's why we're going to spend, the first couple of weeks of schools really developing those new routines and that new way of doing school. Sorry about my puppy. She's excited. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take getting used to, and it's going to take vigilance in order to bring them back. So we'll be working really hard at doing that and setting up those systems and structures and training everyone on how to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's somebody who has had their hand up a long time. Is it Andy Castro? Just want to make sure I'm not butchering names here. Andy Castro.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're not able to hear you. Let's see if I can help out this situation at all. I'm not sure that I can. Sorry, we're not able to hear you. Let's see if we can move on. Stacy, do you have? Stacy Hvac.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask, because I've seen it a couple of times in the chat, how are they going to be sanitizing in between the classes at the high school and the middle school?
Hi, I'm Bill Demers. I'm the new principal at the middle school. And so just with how the middle school and high school schedules look, we're not going to be able to have the same level of sanitation in between each and every class as our school days are going to be looking relatively normal. So what we're hoping to do is we're going to have to lean on the students and the staff to kind of pitch in and have this be a team effort. I think, we're all a community, and we're going to have to step up and clean up after ourselves. I think it's going to be
So that's also the approach that we're taking at the high school as well, is that, we are going to be moving kids between classes, 5 minutes between. And so providing things in the classroom for kids to pitch in.
Exactly.
Thank you. Jessica Bouchard.
Hi, I am speaking as a teacher and as a parent, as I have 2 kids one in the middle school and one that will be in the high school. And I know my room it's on the sunny side of the high school, so it gets to be super, super hot in there. And I usually have 3 fans that I run in my classroom, and I can already hear after this heat wave my daughter complaining about being hot in her classroom. So will fans be allowed to be utilized to help school children off, or what's the protocol on that?
Bill, do you have a response to fans being utilized in the buildings?
No, we haven't, you know, that's one of the things we haven't even discussed yet. Because there's two competing camps on that one. One says keep them out, because if anyone who is sick, you could just be spreading the germs around to the rest of the classroom. So we're still working on that. I really don't have a good answer for you, Jess. I'll look into it and research it, and then I'll make a recommendation to the superintendent and the school board.
Okay.
But I know that the high school and the middle school get rather warm, especially on the second floor at the middle school, and your side of the building at the high school gets a lot of sunlight. So.
All right. That's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Kelly Doobie. Kelly, you just have to unmute yourself.
Hi. I have a question about the requirement for masks. If for some reason a child comes on the bus without a mask, is a bus driver going to have a packet of masks for that child? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And
that was previously discussed, but that's certainly doable to have masks on the buses. Absolutely.
Okay. And will the children have recess, the elementary children?
Chris and Tim, would you speak to recess, please?
Yeah, recess is going to definitely look different next year. We can't have all the students together, but it is important to have that time during either their AM, PM session outside with their peers. They're just going to have to maintain that social distance, and it's going to look more like a fresh air break than it is, you know, at this point, running around and engaging play with one another. And
Are we required to wear masks during recess?
Yeah, we have to wear the masks, and they're not going to, I guess the other piece of this is they're going to have to go out by class at a time, you know, just keeping the numbers down and manageable.
And will they be able to have to wear the mask during gym class?
So in the
not during strenuous activity. Our plan specifically says that students will not be required to wear masks during any strenuous activity.
And what about music class?
I should follow up on PE. In our AM PM model, in that model, their PE classes would be remote, so they wouldn't they wouldn't be gathering in the gym to engage in that.
Would music class also be remote?
Yeah, if it's the AB model, the Unified Arts, at Tim and I's level, the Unified Arts would be delivered remotely.
Okay, thank you.
At the high school level, we haven't made any decisions around music classes yet. There was a study done about aerosols with using instruments and during choir. And so one of the things we proactively did this spring is we bought some special shields that the kids could wear while they were singing that would reduce the amount of aerosols being released. But there is a study that I'm waiting to get the final report. Some of the information's been promising, but we don't 100% know yet what our music program will look like at the high school level.
Thank you.
So we have about 14 minutes left and still a handful of questions. We're going to stop at 8:30, but I also just want to encourage you, please, if you have not been able to fill out the feedback form for our reopening plan, or if you have specific questions that any of the administrators, myself, Mr. Cooper, Mr. Studahar, Ms. Michaud can answer, email us directly and you'll get a response as soon as possible. I've already gotten emails from parents just in the last few days and have been able to respond to them immediately and have answered a lot of questions. So with that, we're going to take our last few questions. Who's next? Ms. Michaud.
Vicki Monahan.
Hi. So my question, well, one of my questions is about the elementary school hybrid models. It sounds, when I was reading the information that was sent out, it sounded like there was going to be either or, the AB or the half days. Tonight, it sounded like the half days are what is going to be presented to the school board. Is there a chance that it's not going to happen that way? Is the school board going to choose which model they're going to choose?
We're making the recommendation at the elementary school level to adopt the AM/PM session model, but the school board can decide to go with the AB day model. But the recommendation from Mr. Saunders and I, and from our task force that did the learning, academic and learning piece of this reopening plan, is recommending that the AM/PM session hybrid model be adopted at the elementary school level.
Okay, but there's still a chance that, an off chance, but there's still a chance that that could change based on the school board's decision.
The school board can decide. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And we did provide both models in the reopening plan. There are sample schedules for both Jocks and Hennepin for both models.
Yeah, because that's what I did see. So that's why I wasn't sure how that was going to work. My other question, though, is there hasn't been a lot of talk about special ed students. Just with the mask requirements, with the cleaning requirements, all of this, it's going to be very, very difficult. I have a child, I have multiple children with IEPs that will be needing different things. I work at the high school with special ed students who will have issues with wearing the masks and all of this. Has any of that been taken into account? Because special ed really hasn't been discussed tonight.
Santina, please.
Sure. So one of the pieces that, hi Vicki, one of the pieces that we've been talking about is that if there may be students who, because of special medical condition or whatnot, may not be able to wear the mask. There is some talk when you look at the plan about facial shields. So we're going to have to look at that on a case-by-case basis. And then did you have another question about special education?
At the high school level, there was talk about the teachers having to clean in between classes and relying on students as well to assist with that. We have students who may not be able to do that, so that's going to be a little tough. And is there going to be additional time built into the schedule to allow more time than 5 minutes to get all of this done?
So the other piece is that in some of our classrooms where special ed students are instructed, we're looking at either the paraprofessionals or the program associates to help with that level of cleaning. And this was a model used during our in-person ESY. Please also remember that earlier we had talked about teachers removing some of their or most of their or all of their personal items. So again, when we're looking at cleaning, we're looking at a lot of surface area cleaning.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody by the name of Jess.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question, I'm a parent and a teacher, and something that I've been thinking a lot about personally is about how we have had a substitute shortage before all of this happened. And I'm just concerned that now staff and teachers aren't gonna only have to be out sick if like I'm actually sick, but if my husband had a fever, I assume that then I would also have to stay home. And what kind of plan are we coming up with for like the possibility of a significant amount of absences? Or if a teacher shows up for work that day, not realizing they have a fever, say go home, what would happen?
So
Go ahead.
I'm just going to start and then I'm going to turn it over to Laura. So we have a protocol for staff who are feeling ill. You know, we say clearly in the plan that if, you know, they're feeling ill that day, they're to call out. There is a protocol that we have, I think a flow chart in the back of the plan that outlines if a staff member does fall ill when they come to school, what the process is for that. Substitutes, that is going to be a challenge. We have talked about it. It is going to be a challenge across the state. It's been discussed at the state level with all of the superintendents. We've been discussing it amongst ourselves as a leadership team. Laura, do you want to add?
Yeah, Jess, it's such a great question, and we are giving it a lot of thought, and it is one of the bigger challenges for sure. And I mean, we may have to get creative in how we utilize our resources and what we do with subs, and you know, take some suggestions, recommendations to the school board with a couple of different scenarios. And I guess my quick answer right now is I don't have an immediate answer for you, but that we are looking at a bunch of different models in the hopes of creatively using our resources.
Okay, thank you.
Just another good question. Yes.
Hi, sorry. I have a question. If you're doing 10 students per classroom, is that also at the high school?
That is, well, we haven't set the 10. The other day, the admin team and I did set up a classroom, and we were able to set up 12 with 6 feet apart. We didn't do it with Bill, so he might have some other ideas. But we'll be looking at what the maximum load for that classroom is, and we may have to, you know, look closely and shuffle schedules around a little bit in order to not max out those classrooms. One of the things that Dr. Huizinga said was that following the school board, that we would probably have about a week before we would be able to get student schedules out. That I can tell you that we probably will not be able to do that at the high school. If we look at the different levels of classes, we have over 180 courses. And so we will have to be working with the bus company, the routes that they take, hopefully dividing it alphabetically, our student population, but we also have to work cooperatively with the school, with the bus company. So it's going to be a big job making sure that we get our schedule in order. So I would say that, you know, more like 2 weeks is even a conservative figure, because it's going to be.
And if we do go remote at the high school, can they get a high school teacher instead of doing the Hvacs? Like, what if the kid doesn't want to do Hvacs?
So we have, we also have a program that we recently contracted with called Edgenuity. And Edgenuity also has teacher-led, teacher-supported classes that are a little bit different from Hvacs, which is another opportunity that students will have instead of Edgenuity. We're not sure what the remote situation will look like with students choosing remote and perhaps a faculty member having a medical situation that causes them to need to be remote. So some of that will have to be worked out. But at this point, until we know that, we really can't say for sure that if a student who is home could take place with a teacher at the high school in a remote model.
Okay. So if my next question is, if the kids are allowed to take off the mask while sitting at the desk, the aerosols, they're viral particles that can float around and drift around in the air for hours. So if we're only cleaning the desks and things like that during the 5-minute in between, how are we cleaning the air if somebody's positive?
So maybe Bill can talk about the air handling, and maybe Jason can talk about the aerosols.
So as far as cleaning the air, we're going to be moving the air around, and we're looking at the bipolar ionization, which is put on each unit. and it's supposed to, so this is where it gets interesting. So they
Yeah,
said
because the high
that
school doesn't always have air movement.
well, it gets hot, but they do have air movement. So we're you know, there's talk about opening windows as well to keep air moving, and that's why we're talking about fans in the classrooms. But this bipolar ionization, everyone I've talked to about it said that their claim is that it kills COVID-19, but that's in a 1 foot square box, and it took it 30 minutes. So you know, I'm still trying to work through that. I am talking with a few companies about that, putting them in. The good thing about that is if you ever been into an area, bowling alley, places like that have the smoke eaters, that's bipolar ionization, and they do work. So we're looking at that to clean the air, plus with the purging during the nighttime to move the air around, because we want to pre-purge the building.
And Bill, I totally understand the nighttime stuff, and I get it, and I'm psyched about it. I'm worried about when you have kids sitting in a classroom with a mask off and somebody coughs or somebody sneezes, those aerosols go out into the air, and it's a proven fact statistically from Johns Hopkins University that it lasts for 3 hours. So how are we going to keep those kids safe?
I'm going to do the best I can. I can't.
Yeah, and I get
promise
that, and I greatly appreciate it.
So we'll continue to look into and develop a plan as far as moving air and see what we're going to do in those classrooms, because part of that issue and we've talked about this with other directors, is if you add a fan to there to move air, you're also moving those germs around. And that
sure, absolutely. And Dr. Chan is completely against fans.
Right. So, you know, you have both camps. So I don't know which one's right. We're gonna research it a little bit more, and we'll come up with the best possible plan for Milford School District. That's the best I can do for you guys.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I greatly appreciate it. I just have, you know, I have family members in my household that have bad immune systems, and I have to take the precautions. Like, we can't afford getting sick. It will, you know, I don't want anybody in my family to die, nor anybody in our community, as does anybody else.
I agree with you.
Has anybody been in touch with our school nurses, since they have degrees and stuff, about what the protocols are and have gotten their opinion? Because I know they're getting the health alerts, and I know that they're listening to Dr. Chan's, you know, reports. Has anybody reached out to them for their input?
So I'll let Santina answer that. We incorporated Dr. Chan's latest webinar into the plan, the latest information that he sent. But I'll let Santina.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Gus.
Hi, Santina.
The school nurses statewide, they have weekly phone calls with Dr. Chan. And the last phone call, they did go over the most recent medical alert, which is update number 19. The school nurse, yes, the School Nurses Association is going to create a document specifically for school nurses. And Dr. Chan has made the commitment that he's going to review that to make sure that their practices are in line with what the Public Health Division is saying. So and Jamie's been there, so we're right on that. The hope is that that document will be out in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, I just have a concern. Everybody's talking about, you know, the fire health guy. Sorry, I can't remember his name. But what is his background in? Is he a nurse? Is he a doctor? What is his background, the Hvac guy that you guys are talking with? Because I've never heard of him before.
Been in the district or in the town for quite a while.
Right, but what's his background other than a firefighter?
So Jason, I don't know if you would like to answer that. We do have 4 minutes left, and I would like to give other people a chance to ask a question.
Sure, and I
So
get that.
like,
I'll reach out to him privately.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys, for answering my questions.
Of course. Elizabeth Solon, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a couple quick questions. One, going back to technology, you discussed students being able to have access to technology both in school and out of school. What if students have, or teachers for that matter, have laptops that they want to bring in? I know in past years it hasn't been allowed, but with us going to a one-to-one, are students going to be allowed and teachers going to be allowed to bring in their own devices since we are doing so much on the computers this year? And I understand it's a really big liability, Jerry. I'm so sorry to ask the question. I apologize ahead of time.
Oh, no, it's okay. I think it's a really good question. And obviously, I'd prefer not to go there for all the liability issues. We have a fairly large order of Chromebooks that we had made back in May. We haven't received them yet, and I just got notice that they may be delayed a little bit more, so we may have to look at something like that. If at all possible, I prefer to provide devices that we own, we protect, we insure. But absolutely, at this point, you know, we'll discuss things, and we may have to take the device and put antivirus on it to protect our network and stuff like that. But it's a good question that we're certainly looking at right now.
So to follow up, if the students get assigned a Chromebook, once we get those Chromebooks, will it be the same Chromebook that they're able to take home on a regular basis as well?
So the plan is absolutely that the concept of carts is going to stop for a while.
Okay.
And they will have to go to one-to-one.
Okay. And then one more quick question, and this one might be a Laura question. As far as subs go, are we going to be allowing subs to come in that have been subbing in districts nearby? Or are we going to say subs have to only sub in Milford for the year, or for the time being until things kind of figure themselves out?
Great question, Elizabeth. You know, I don't know yet. I mean, I don't know how we could possibly say that they can't work elsewhere if that's their livelihood. But we really are, we've put out a survey to our substitutes that are currently in roster, if you will, to ask if they're interested subbing for the district. So I'm just trying to get a pulse on how many people are interested in subbing in the district right now. And then we would be putting criteria around that or conditional employment around that.
No worries. I just wanted to kind of bring it up as something to think about. And I'd also like to ask that the committees rethink the ideas of people not being able to bring their own water bottles. I completely understand not wanting to bring in disposable plastic water bottles, but I think if students have hydro flasks or things with their names on it or things like that, that should be something that should be considered as an okay thing. As a teacher who is constantly drinking water, I'm in a classroom right next to Jess Bouchard. I think Bill can attest to this, one of the hottest classrooms in the entire district. And so not having water in my classroom that's readily available is not an option. I need to have a water bottle in my room, and I bring a hydro flask, and I completely understand we're going to have to kind of do something to figure out how to fill those water bottles, but I think that needs to be rethought in the sense that these kids are going to need that resource. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And we have hit 8:30. I see at least one person whose hand has been up and has not had an opportunity to speak, so I'm going to call on this person last this evening. But I do want to encourage you to send your questions, email your questions to any one of us, and we certainly will continue to answer questions in the days ahead. So please don't hesitate to do that. And I'll call on Ashley Wiegand. Apologize if I butchered your last name.
You did pretty good, thank you. My question is just on safety, from the respect that if we're gonna have all of our teachers and students in masks, how are we going to ensure that there are no unwanted individuals entering the buildings? I just have real concern over, so much of the face being shielded. We don't know who's coming and going quite as much. Will there be precautions on that?
I can answer that one. We're not going to allow any visitors to come into the building. We're going to stop everyone at the doors. Only staff and students will be allowed in. So if a parent's dropping off a backpack or somebody forgot something, the protocol that we have in place actually comes from the way Heron Pond handled it during the blizzard bags. Is whoever's bringing it in would call in, say that they're dropping something off. Someone would go outside, pick it up, and bring it in. But we're not going to allow any visitors into the buildings at all, because it's just, we don't know where they've been. We can't follow this person around and clean everything behind them. I just can't keep it safe. So it's easier if we keep visitors out, and that includes after school groups and outside groups using the building. Our recommendation is not to allow anybody into the buildings. And the other recommendation to help us with cleaning and all that is, and 1 hour after the students get out, we're asking all teaching staff, including administration, to leave the building so that we can thoroughly clean the buildings.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. I just want to thank you so much for spending this evening with me. I think at the top I saw over 230 people on this Zoom call. We hope that we were able to answer a lot of your most pressing questions. As Ms. Michaud said, we're always available by email to answer any further questions that you have. And we're going to continue to be reviewing the feedback form that we put out earlier in the week. But we can't thank you enough for a really great conversation tonight, some really thoughtful questions. You've given us some things to think about, and we're going to continue to work together. Our goal is to work as collaboratively as we can with all of you to do the very, very best we can by the children and families of Milford, and to educate them to the best possible way we can, despite some really, really trying circumstances. So thank you for your patience, your flexibility, your support. It's much appreciated. This team is working really, really hard, days, nights, weekends, to ensure that we can provide the very best that we can. And we look forward to more of your feedback. So thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.